Profile is a show where we showcase some of the talented people who work behind the scenes in the entertainment, business, and local communities while making positive influences on the lives of others.
Welcome to Producer Profile. I'm Stella Winston.
And I'm Orville Nelson.
You know, the marriage of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz is a showbiz love story. They met while they were doing a production. They fell in love, and then they married, and they went on to be a creative, dynamic duo.
Do we have such a couple here in BCAT?
Yes, we do. And they are our guests today. Eric Pryor and Monique Moore.
That was good. I like that.
That was a good one.
Welcome to the show. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, so we have to start from the beginning. You know that. We must, right?
Yes, we must.
Well, the beginning starts there, so you started.
So Eric, Monique, tell us how it started.
Well, in 97, I got certified to be a BCAT producer that January. And I produced my first show probably around April or May of that year. And a friend, and it was a good show, I must say, for the first show. And the show was called Just Between Us. And a mutual friend introduced Eric and I went by his gallery. I had just moved to the neighborhood of Bedford-Stuyvesant and was interested in getting involved in the community. And I met Eric because he runs an art and cultural center and works with children. So no, he's laughing because he tells a different story. He says I offered to volunteer because I liked him.
Okay.
Now, that is
we'll let him
We'll let him tell his story.
That is not the case. I want to work with kids.
That is not the case.
So
You better not tell that one.
He was attracted to me first, but we shortly became friends, and I wanted to do a show on former athletes in college who went on to do other careers besides sports, because a lot of our youth tend to, think that that's their only hope, or that's the only thing they want to do is play professional ball, play professional ball. So I knew Eric, even we hadn't become friends that long, I knew he had played basketball in college, and he went on to do something very creative and very different from basketball. So I asked him to be a part of the show. And he was probably like my second or third show that I produced. And after that shoot, we just really developed a great friendship. We became the best of friends. We hung out all the time. He's learned to just nod. And we became the best of friends, and we hung out all the time and just developed a great bond. And 5 months later, I say, we really started dating, and we confessed our love to one another.
I'm always talking about the show. I thought we were talking about the show.
Well, with that opening,
I mean, you were her second or third show, so
Right.
that's very important. So you were part of the beginning of her production here at BCAT. So
This is true.
yes. So and then so the story continues.
So the story continues.
When do you become a producer at BCAT?
Oh, wow. I don't remember the date and the month. Like, how long? When was it? You probably know
Most
better
men,
than me.
you guys are just so awful.
It's like remember the anniversary. You remember the year.
I remember the year generally around the year.
Generally, let me see. Where's my ID at?
Probably that next year. Like
No, it was
January.
longer than it was.
It was like
about
that
a year.
spring, that January, February of '98,
Something like
when
that.
we started living together.
Okay. Now I'm really on the spot. Thanks a lot, Stella. But
Okay, so you become a studio producer and a remote producer.
she's both. I'm just
both.
studio. I'm
You're
just
just-
certified in studio.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
and
come on board
I come on board.
and you help Monique with her production.
Right.
But you also have a show of your own.
Not. I had one, but actually,
That
what happened was when we first were friends, and I came on, and I'm a painter, I'm an artist, so visual artist. So I was looking at the show, and I think I had been to one of your other shows or something like that, and I noticed that one of the hard things in terms of, I'm sure, well, I know for every producer here is consistency in crew. So at the time, I felt like it was sort of interesting to me, and it was sort of a creative challenge. So we both just sort of talked about it and thought that, hey, we could create some consistency with us as a team, because then she could host and I would direct, and if no matter what happened in terms of all the other positions changing, at least there was consistency in the basic look of the show.
Well, for
very
initially,
Yeah.
he did produce a show called Urban Expressions,
Expressions.
and it was a monthly show. And Just Between Us initially was just a topical show. We talked about welfare reform, taxes, investing. It was straight talk show, and Eric was doing more artistic music, poetry on Urban Expressions. But with our time constraints, it just became too much to produce a weekly and a monthly show. So what Eric is talking about, having consistency with the producers and just making the one show the best it could be, we decided just to focus on Just Between Us,
Right.
and make the show more of a variety show, where we would have one show would be topical, the next show would be artistic, music, and so forth. So
Right.
I worked on their show last week, and it is indeed that there were two animators on, which reflected your art.
Well, that show actually, what we've somewhat done too is utilize Urban Expressions as almost like a subtext within Just Between Us. You know, so if Just Between Us is going to talk about art occasionally, what we do, we'll still start the show, Welcome to Just Between Us, what Monique will. And then Welcome to, Urban Expressions Special Edition, and that's how that show was actually built, even though it air as a special under Urban Expressions, but we like to be
Right.
able to use them interchangeably and not just happen to be on different tracks because of the space.
yeah, we've just gone back to
time.
producing Urban Expressions as a special, so it's not so much. But we took a hiatus from.
Now
Producing.
I wanted to ask something about the set, because I worked on your shoot before also, and
Right.
you have a
And
very
we're waiting
simple-
for you to come back. But go ahead.
Invite me, I'll definitely come back.
Okay.
Okay.
In terms of the set, which I believe you produced it, you designed it and put it together?
Yeah, we really, a while ago when I was in graduate school, I had done a pretty large backdrop screen because I had a big 4,000-foot loft space, and it was always dividing up space, and it was an issue. And I had done it, and just looking at it, it just felt like it would have been good to bring in here, because that allowed us to make our setting look unique, even
Yes.
though it's in the
It does.
studio. Whenever we're there, no one else has it, so it's at least something that is identifiable, and it just breaks it up, breaks the color up. But for the most part, otherwise, the setting is pretty similar to most of the talk shows here.
Now, you've done some very interesting topical shows. Like the show that I worked on with you last week was Dr. Sweeney, and she was talking about obesity in the Black community, which was very interesting, and she gave excellent advice.
Yes, we definitely try to, like a lot of producers here, we try to focus on Brooklynites, because the show is produced in Brooklyn through the facilities of BCAT, and it is important to us to expose people in Brooklyn. And Dr. Sweeney runs the Bedford-Stuyvesant Family Health Center on Fulton Street in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and she has been a large part of it growing about reaching out to the community and some of the issues that we as a community don't want to talk about, like obesity, like asthma, like smoking, like prostate cancer, like colon cancer. So we definitely want to, Brooklyn is bigger than many major cities. The city I'm from, Philadelphia, is bigger than, population-wise, bigger than Detroit, where Eric's from.
Oh, okay.
And, and these cities have major television stations, and BCAT, I think now people are starting to realize how much of an impact BCAT can have on the borough of Brooklyn, because it is in itself a huge city. So we like to focus on things that happen in Brooklyn.
Now, have you ever been to the Franklin Avenue train station, and have you ever seen
Yes.
the stained
In fact,
glass?
I made a special junction up there just to see it.
And
Just to see.
why-
And what am I? What am I seeing? up
What
there?
are you seeing? You're seeing Eric Pryor's work.
Yeah.
That's your work, right?
Yeah, I designed it. It's not only my work.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is just I designed it, but
Please
the
explain.
actual physical glass was fabricated by Gordon Stained Glass Studios, and they actually chiseled and cut the glass and put it in, and I don't know. They did this.
You're the brains behind the muscle.
Yeah, I'm the concept. The concept is important, but it's similar to, it's similar. That process was similar to producing here. Even though the producer essentially sees what they want to do, you can't do it without your camera people and your sound people and all of those, good folks
So
to TD.
when was that unveiled?
That was in 99.
99.
In 99.
It's beautiful. People
Thank
should
you.
make a special effort to go up and see
Thank
it.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now,
We have B-roll. don't
we have a
something?
videotape of Just Between Us, and could you tell us a little bit about it?
I think this is the show that we did ironically on couples who own a business together, a married couple. They own a business together, and we were just decided to produce this show. I learned a lot from it. He was in there directing, but they were very insightful, very encouraging, because I know there's a lot of people out there who may want to work together as a couple and may, feel like it's not a good thing. But Eric and I have grown through this whole process of, I don't know if you want to get into that later, but working together.
So let's look at the videotape
Okay.
and then we'll get into that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome to Just Between Us. I'm your host, Monique Pryor. Now, if you're one of those people out there who've thought of starting their business with a significant other and decided it wasn't for you or is going to break up your relationship, well, this show is exactly for you. Because with us today is a couple who have been married for 3 years and who have been in business 2 years and doing well. Please welcome to the show Julian K. Wilson, and Lisa Gibson Wilson. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
So, let's see, what advice can you give couples out there who want to start a business together but are scared, who think it may not work, who think they may be at each other's throat? What have you done to make it work for you?
Wow. We had some pretty significant board meetings between each other. We actually sat down and tried to find out what it was that we liked to do together as a business. I think the first thing that Julian and I did as a business together was in his senior year. I had a graphics background in doing it for the radio and television station that I work with, and we did graduation invitations at a significantly reduced cost for students who couldn't afford the ones printed through the print shop on campus. And that kind of paid some bills, didn't it? Yeah. And we were dating at that time. So it was a fun adventure for both of us. Julian was salesperson and I was producer.
I was pretty active on campus at the time, and I knew a lot of people. I knew a lot of people who wanted cards. I was a senior, and we were all trying to figure out how would we produce some invitations. And so I discussed it with Lisa, and we was like, well, hey, let's see what we can do. And sure enough, we were able to formulate a plan, and we initiated, and we did pretty well with that. And then I think it was like that,
So there was no hesitancy in the beginning. It was just, you just saw an opportunity and you felt a need, and you just went with it. Because I think a lot of couples are hesitant. You know, they think, you guys got married in 97, right?
97, yes.
And, well, you dated for a while before then. And a lot of people think that it may ruin their relationship or, and you have heard stories, horror stories, where people let it take over their relationship and so forth. How are you guys able to keep your marriage focused as well as keep the business focused and just go on with life as usual?
Well, we first, in the beginning of our whole business plan, sat down and found out what our strengths and weaknesses were individually.
Well, that is an appropriate video for the show, for today's show, and I will ask you the same question that
Yes.
you asked them.
I knew that was coming.
What advice would you give to couples who want to produce shows here at BCAT?
Good luck. No,
You have to have a sense of humor. That's the first thing. I think a lot of people who work on our show, it's a lot of producers here who do notice that Eric and I will definitely, kind of go at it with each other, but it's in a fun-loving way. He'll turn down my mic, or he'll turn down the mics out here so I can't hear him, and then nobody will tell me what he says. So we definitely have a lot of fun on the show. But the most interesting thing is, no matter if we have creative differences during the taping or pre-production or anything like that, if we're stressed out, at the end of when we leave BCAT, we leave everything here. Like, we'll go home and say, great shoot, or this is what we need to work on, but it's to know we've just grown a whole lot. It's really a great experience.
To distill that
Give you a
advice.
lot of headache.
Now, to distill that advice, what I got out of that is, if you're doing something together, you do it, have as much fun as you can, and when you leave it aside, and then pick up back your particular life.
Right, exactly. We go home, just relax. I usually come home, watch ER or something. And we definitely leave it here. We try not to even talk about the show afterwards because it's usually late. We usually do 7 to 10. And the next day we may talk about it like we're brushing our teeth or whatever. But we truly have learned to enjoy one another's differences, enjoy one another's opinions, creativity, insight. I've learned to respect his opinion. He's learned to respect mine. And it is a growth process, I can definitely say. In the beginning, we were both learning. We're still learning. We're still learning. But I know for both of us, we've learned to take a lot of criticism from each other and a lot of advice from each other.
Now, do the two of you ever just like sit down and watch the tapes and critique it on a certain area, like let's say camera shots or questioning or topic?
Not as much as we should, but
usually I think I try to encourage Monique to look at it herself, because I think sometimes you can look and not, have to feel defensive, because you got to remember it's like, we're like two members of any team, and you have different roles, and my role as director is really, I don't really, if she doesn't like a particular shot or this or that, the other, she'll look at that. I mean, and then if she's speaking too fast or whatever, it's probably better for us to just look at it on our own and then just come together and talk about it, opposed to just looking at specifics. I mean, there have been times when we look at specific shows together, but for the most part, it's pretty much done apart. When we see it together is when we do. Sometimes we do have edited outside, on our own before, at times, and when we do that, we see it together, but then, we're engrossed in that. We'll notice things, and we'll make comments and little suggestions, but
But you do, you fulfill your role as a director. You compromise, but you do fulfill your role as director.
Yeah, I mean, we both, we co-produce, so the producer's over the director, right? So, I mean, she's an equal partner, and so, I try to respect what she wants, and it's not just, what I want, just because I'm a co-producer and direct the show. As host, I'm in an empowered position when we do it. Of course, she won't know what I do necessarily because she's in the heat of the moment. It's like we don't know right now what they're doing with the cameras, but ultimately, it's a trust thing, and the only way partnerships work is that there's total trust and faith. So if she says, "Hey, I want it to look, I don't want it so much to be a side view. I like when I'm speaking to people for the camera to see me more, face from a frontal view," then I definitely, when we go into the next shoot, I keep that in mind and try to make it look that way, because most times when she sees it, just like with my regular art, I'm used to taking criticism and adjusting, and it doesn't hurt, because, I mean, you don't know what something looks like until you try it. You can imagine it all you want, so the best thing is to try it, and most times it works out. What she said usually makes it look better.
Now, that's some of that advice you just gave, or telling how you folks produce your show. also fits, it seems like it fits into your marriage. Now, we don't need to go in there too much because we only have a little bit of time. But in terms of where do you want to go with this?
Yeah.
I think essentially, I mean, we
Well,
want to
we've
get
been-
paid doing what you love. I mean,
Right.
I
Is
mean,
this
I'm an
broadcasted
artist.
in
I'm
Manhattan?
an
Is it
artist.
broadcasted in the other, into the other boroughs?
It
was
was,
in
and
Manhattan
it's
at one
not
point.
anymore. But we've initially, we've.
Excuse me for cutting.
I'm sorry. We've used it as two goals, and we focused on the first one, which was promoting me as a television personality. We were able to, once Eric came on board and we started using consistent producers, the show just consistently got better, and that enabled us to finally, a couple years ago, and said, let's put together a reel for you, Monique. And we put together a reel, and I was already doing commercials intermittently and doing some print modeling, so I sent it to a couple agents that I already knew and some that I didn't know, and one agent liked the reel, although, we had talked about, I was like, oh, BCAT looks so low budget and people are out there, a friend of mine was in the business.
You can't say that on BCAT.
I'm sorry.
It was
I mean, that's compared to
but we
the
know
other
what you're
networks,
saying, yes.
compared to the other networks. And I had a friend who did a show on Fox, and so her reel was, all this stuff. And you have to remember, 2-3 years ago, BCAT's technology has just gone so far, even from 2 years ago. So
Yes, it
it's
is.
grown and
It's one of the better
Truly.
community access television.
truly
But
it is.
still community.
Yeah.
access,
Right.
yeah.
So, fortunately, agent liked my reel and started sending it out. And because I'm an attorney, and it just really helped all the things I did. And I had the biggest accomplishment I can say was when Oprah started her network, Oxygen, with a couple other ladies. And Eric and I were very proud to, I had about 5 callbacks. I mean, they flew people in to meet me and so forth. So, but it's show business. You get to the last thing and then it's nothing. We were right there. But that was definitely. We felt very proud with our BCAT produced tapes. Yeah, it was really
Yes,
an
that's
accomplishment for
really-
us. And recently, we got a call from NBC in LA in development who had heard outstanding things about our BCAT tape, to
Great.
promote me. So now we're focusing on the show, producing a reel for the show, producing some goal for the show. We really want to produce for television. I think that is our goal, and be creative and expose Eric as a director. We're interested in film. He had a meeting with some of the animators the other week about producing something.
You can't let that one out the bag.
Okay.
That's a surprise.
I won't let that one out the bag.
You can't let that one out the bag yet.
Could you tell us again the date and time, the day and time of the show?
The show comes on every Thursday at 7
And 11 a.m.
and 11 a.m. and it's called Just Between Us, and it airs on channel 35 and 68.
And actually it comes on 11 a.m. first, and then 7 p.m. in the evening.
Oh, okay.
But Eric has, like he said,
I didn't want
he
to,
did a-
7 and then 11. It was like
Yeah.
7 a.m. and
PM,
11
yeah.
a.m.
He did a special Urban Expressions, and that should be airing soon as well.
Okay.
So
Now, with your art, Eric.
Yes.
Now, do you showcase any of your art, or do you showcase other people's art?
And on the show?
On your show, on Urban
well,
Expression?
on both, we've showcased artists both on, well, since I came on board Just Between Us, I've had a major influence in shifting the content and doing more artistic shows on Just Between Us, because I don't even see them as 2 separate shows anymore. I see what we do as producing one show.
Okay.
It's going to have the same look. Only thing that may change is if we occasionally slip in the Urban Expressions, as a title of the show. But otherwise, we've had, like I said, the animators last week, which I think is going to be really
we've
cool.
had some celebrities too, like
Yeah, we did,
Dougie
but-
Doug, and a director who directed a few Jay-Z's videos, and an actress from.
Yeah, but I think the animation is going to be like something like the animation show with the animators with their shorts is going to be a little bit more interesting, just in the sense that there's no animation on BCAT, so being able to bring that kind of artistic talent in, I think
there
it's
is
gonna give a
animation.
Is it? I didn't know.
I think
Okay, well,
there's
excuse
a
me.
gentleman that has
I
a show
stand
called
corrected.
Rent Wars. I think he has
Okay.
some. I haven't seen it, but I heard that he does.
Well, I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but this is a little bit more adult animation.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an
It's really
understatement.
not for children.
That's an understatement.
It's not for children.
What's been your favorite show that you've produced?
Wow, our favorite show. Our favorite show. I can't even. There's been so
Monique,
many.
You know, we just got that wrap up.
Oh,
sign.
we have a wrap up.
Okay, so
So
I
maybe
have to
another
borrow
time.
those signs though. Franz is.
Yeah, Franz Butler is really
He's
kicking
on
it.
it.
Franz
I have
Butler
to-
is the producer
Yeah.
of Producer Profile.
Yeah, we
he's
have
on
to
there.
wrap that show.
wanna
Dougie
say
Doug was
thank you.
fun. I'm sorry.
I want to
Okay.
say thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Eric
We
and Monique
enjoyed
Pryor.
it.
And this is they're the Lucille Ball, and Desi Arnaz of VCAT. Thank you for being here.
And thank you so much for watching Producer's Profile. I'm Orville Nelson.
And I'm Stella Winston.
Thank you.
Bye.
Now, in terms of Dougie Fresh, how did that work out for you?
That's a Dougie Fresh.